Good morning, Nudelberg Daily Huddle. We're back. We're live. It's a Thursday. It's a great day to be here. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. It is. Yesterday was a whopping Wednesday. Had, in office, out of office, was all around town. Knowing that it was National Best Friends Day, and you can't make this shit up. My best friend, my first best friend in high school when I moved from Florida, moved from New York to Florida, reached out to me. He is now the corporate attorney for TBC, which is Midas. He heard my name in the office and said, "Get out, it can't be." Reached out. We made dinner plans last night. And to your point, it's been many, many, many years. And we sat down and we were 14.
And get right back up.
Neither one of us had a drink. He's not a big drinker. I'm on this thing where I'm not drinking. So we sat outdoors at Lemongrass and just talked, good stuff. And, I told Jake this morning, lines like this was like, yeah, he goes, I can remember we were idiots. We played tackle football. We played basketball, because I was telling him about my knee. He goes, no surprise that we're hurt. He goes, and then you sort of broke off when you started smoking pot. And I was like, so it was very, very much fun. I tell people now, reach out to those, those way back, because they can found it. They remember who you are.
So you reconnected with a friend yesterday, and I actually made a new friend yesterday. Big shout out to Shira Johnson, who is a hot, up and comer in South Florida. She graduated from FAU. She started her own sports agency. She's the youngest sports agent in the United States, and she has a very different approach to being a sports agent. She's focusing on the NIL, and she's focusing on educating high school kids and the parents about what the opportunity is and how to set themselves up for success coming out of high school, going into college. Absolutely phenomenal energy, fits right into the fold of 1% Better. We went for a half hour, and I was like, we have to schedule a time to get in person together because this is just way too good. So shout out to Shira, and thank you for the time. Made a new friend.
I'd like to be part of that because I can introduce her to Darren Heitner, who is the king of NIL. So speaking about Huddle and connecting, I was headed to Boca. I had a cancellation. Somebody, called me, sent me a note. Hey, I got a really bad cough. I should probably stay away. And I was like, yes, you should. So they did. And I had coincidentally gotten a note from Randy Ostrow, who said, I just can't wait to meet you. And I said, hey, I got a cancellation. You want to do it? Boom, 4:00. They showed me Randy Ostrow.
Nice.
So this maniac shows up in the Augusta caddy outfit.
In the caddy uniform.
I'll tell you, he humbled me in a big, big way. He goes, you have no idea the impact you've had, how I talk to my kids, how I operate. He asked great questions. We had great dialogue, and it was super, super fun. And, that connectivity is what drives me.
Yeah.
Not the sale, the connectivity. So
1,000%. And shout out to John Wensveen, who notices your shirt this morning. Favorite college, Animal House. 0.000 is maybe my favorite line from that movie. I don't know what your
double secret probation.
Yeah, double top secret probation.
Shira Johnson.
There's Shira coming in. Yeah. Boom. Absolutely.
Shira.
So we will make sure that it all happens and we get connected and that we set you up for success. But let's get to some wake up music, and then we're going to come back and we're going to continue the conversation about friends.
Wake up, everybody! you have to say. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. No more about to thinking. Time for thinking ahead. Come on now.
I got to tell you, the Huddle really does jazz me up.
Yeah.
This morning doing my thing, and then boom, the cameras go on, and it's go time, baby. So
That's right. It's right. That's why we're here, and we're drinking our own Kool-Aid here by doing it. But so, want to continue the conversation because there was a lot of content around friends that we didn't get to, and I'm especially excited about this next topic of friends because I think I enjoy these conversations because you really have to come at it with an open mind. You really have to say, I'm not willing to rely on what I think I know, but look at something through a different lens, because what this article talks about is romantic friendships, right? And when you hear romantic, you immediately think intimate, right? Intimacy, sexual.
Sexual more than intimate, yeah.
Right. So like you think, sexual, you think, partner, you think that's what romantic in most people's brains mean. Correct. This article really challenges you to think about romantic relationships differently and thinking about romantic as more of a, I don't know, like 5th century word, right? Like the Romantic Ages, which really talks about it just being close. Having a closeness that has nothing to do with sexual, that has nothing to do with being in some kind of partnership relationship. It's really all about having that closeness, which I think you can have. It could be man to man, a romantic relationship.
Well, so they have coined the term bromance.
Sure.
And there's nothing sexual about that. It's very intimate. It's very close. It's very intense. I think it comes from expectations. What do you expect out of your relationship? The closer I get to people, the more you learn about them. Some of that pushes you away. You could have a intimate relationship with somebody who's completely different than you. Last night, Lon, who's been my friend forever, I'll shout him out. He'll hate it. Lon know that, but Lon is a self-proclaimed nerd. When I became friends, he's like graduated valedictorian at Duke, right? Yeah. No surprise, his daughter, valedictorian or a top graduate. So he is a book guy. He's a quiet guy. He and I played basketball together forever. He was part of that group, but he was very different. But we were very, very, very close, in a way that it may not even be a definition for it.
Well, so for a heterosexual conversation, a man-to-man wouldn't make you uncomfortable, but a man-to-woman romantic relationship, and put this into context, if it's a business partnership or it's a coaching mentor partnership, that can be a romantic relationship, not in the sense of they're trying to have a relationship that is sexual, but they're pushing each other in a way, and they're close in a way, pushing themselves to be the best version of themselves that allows that to be a romantic relationship that isn't necessarily what in our minds we think of as romantic.
So again, I think of outcomes versus behavior. Same thing as in our practice. If you're thinking about the outcome and going for the outcome, the expected outcome of a romantic relationship is that you have intercourse or some for sort of physical,
or that you get married, or that you have a long-lasting, togetherness.
Meanwhile, is it like a full moon or something? Look who's
Al's here in the huddle. Great to see you this morning. Thanks for the comment. We miss you too.
Way to go, Al. But this idea of, and Lori and I go round and round on this, because if you're in a intimate, committed relationship with your partner, and then you have this thing outside of that creates all kinds of chaos.
So I think what it comes down to is understanding what the boundaries are, right? Like if you have a romantic relationship with a woman, right, who is a business partner, say you guys are partners, right? You are 50-50 partners in a business that you're growing. The boundaries have to be that you're not going to vent about your personal life, or you're not going to venture into areas that take that romantic relationship and make it inappropriate based on a relationship that you have with your wife or with your significant other, with your partner. So like then it becomes about boundaries. You can have closeness, you can have intimateness with somebody else, but you still have to respect the boundaries of what your other relationships are then.
So again, I think it goes back to an expectation. When you get married, there's an expectation. I'll be there for you, good or bad, all of the vows and the stuff, So I love this. Philosopher Carrie Jenkins argues, our conception of romantic love is largely socially constructed. That is, there is nothing essential or inevitable about the ways we conceive it. It's made up. It's all made up. Somebody said, this is how it's going to look. And then we've all had to live with that. Some of it works, some of it doesn't. There's lots of people that argue, this could get really crazy about monogamy.
But we've been conditioned to look at things a certain way. And Kevin Splitt comes in with a great comment who says, so with trust, honesty, and respect, you have boundaries. If there are boundaries, then great relationships can exist. So I want to take a break here. I want to go to motive. Yeah, go ahead. What do you got?
Wait. So the one key in all of it, which is probably the biggest failure in companies that we're seeing today, is communication.
Sure.
How are you communicating it? If you do it in the dark, you're going to create suspicion. That erodes trust. That erodes loyalty. So I mean, this is a crazy, crazy topic because it's happening in companies all day long.
So, Lori, what we're saying is when we're not defining a romantic relationship as sexual, but we're saying that most people, when they hear the word romance, they immediately associate it with sexual, which you have to separate. You have to separate those things, and they have to understand that they can be separate, that they're not, they can be mutually exclusive and be opposite things. So I love it. That's and I got to tell you, one of my favorite things about when we bring up these topics is sometimes I have no idea which way you're going to go on it. So I'm always like, I'm either going to be playing devil's advocate with him, or we're going to be talking about it in the same way.
Which is what makes for good dialogue. The fact that, like, when I do all of this reading, what caught me was, what is a romantic friendship? I was like, dive into that.
Right.
Holy shit. And again, it goes back to when people talk to me about what is the difference between a business relationship and a, friendship, nothing, it's just crazy. So, the expectation of a romantic relationship, forget about friendship, whatever, is that you consummate it with physical.
So I think that's the next thing we're going to talk about are the 15 qualities. And I'm not even let's get to motivational morning music so that we get it out of the way. And then we can talk about some of the pillars of what a successful relationship looks like and what makes best friends.
Know me, trying to just connect, thinking maybe you could show me. There's so many people here, then why am I so lonely? Can I get a connection? 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 Real friends, good friends, hard to find, let's face it. Buy the perfect home when there's a flood in the basement. Need a couple dollars now, and I ain't trying to chase it. Kids from Oklahoma, man, we don't waste it. I'm just trying to paint the picture for me, something I could give a damn about in maybe 40 years. And I've been ready and willing and able to edit the story, cause there's so many people here to be so damn lonely. Can I get a connection? 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 I can see it in my reflection. Oh, can I get a connection? Can I get a connection?
So I just want to say that part of the charm of the Huddle is I learn new music I never heard.
Yeah, Ryan Tedder.
I don't know who Ryan Tedder is. Who is that?
Great selection by Jake. Absolutely great. And I love that Jonathan Aarons recognized it and shouted it out. But what he's singing about there is connection, which my post today on LinkedIn was about relationship capital. And I was like, what's the number one strategy to growing your relationship capital? It's LinkedIn, right? Like, is there a better tool or better strategy to developing relationships that have no boundaries, that have no geographical boundaries, that have absolutely it's a red ocean, right? Or it's a blue ocean. It's wide open.
Well, it's funny because you don't know who's watching. Lon's not active in social media at all. There's no presence there, but he knew everything about me and what had happened. And he was looking at me going, dude, you built this thing. Like, you are the master. I see you. You show up. He goes, I don't go to LinkedIn often, but when I do, you show up. So understanding the tools goes back to, and that's what I couldn't believe. What a phenomenal way to have a start to new relationships. Well, Colonel Waldo Walton.
What an appropriate term that LinkedIn chose to use for how you choose to connect with people. It's a connection request. Like Facebook made it a friend request, right? But you're not necessarily friends with everybody who you get one from. And I think to say that you're going to be friends would assume that there has to be a connection first. So like, what an unbelievable philosophy of, if you looked at sending connection requests as it's your attempt to make a connection, and what's the foundation of that connection based on, which as we look at the 15 qualities for what best friends should be, right? Like, there's a lot in there. It never lists connection, which if you don't have a connection to somebody, how the hell can you ever be best friends with them?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke with somebody yesterday that I'm coaching, 27-year-old Florida State grad. And she said, look, when we were in college, they told us to get on LinkedIn and connect with everybody.
Right.
So she said, I don't know anybody in my LinkedIn. Right. It's random, so you don't know the tool, you do that, but you're right. It's based in, a false theory. Like, people I have 30,000 connections. So what?
You don't know any of them.
You don't know any of them.
No.
They can't be there for you when you need them. What are friends for? Yesterday's song. If you really ask that question, why do you have friends? What do you get from friends that feeds you? That's really the crux of it. And if you go into it, because you don't become friendly with somebody to sell them. If you do, you're a douchebag.
So, and like, if we say that trust and respect are at the foundation of a best friendship, and you're connected with somebody and you haven't communicated with them, you've got no way to build trust with them. You've got no way to build respect with them. So like, as you look at your connection requests that you're sending and you're looking at the foundation of it, then what's the next step? Like, for me, there are people that I make an exception to the rule for when they send me a connection request, whether it be with a note, whether it be I can look at their profile and I can see they're active and I can see they know people. I might accept them right away, but I'm still responding back to them with, welcome to the tribe, would love to know what made you want to connect. If they don't respond to that, I come back to it and I say, hey, we're connected here, but I want to make the connection real. And in order for us to do that, we have to have a conversation in order for us to earn the right or have the opportunity to be able to become best friends. Because if we become best friends, the sky is the limit for what the possibilities are.
So, Randy Ostra, I know you're watching. Our conversation about active listening was magnificent. You got from David Meltzer 3 types of listeners. If you don't mind sharing it here, it would be great fodder. There were 2 types before active listening. You count on your friends to listen to you. Sometimes you just reach out to somebody and say, I just need you to listen to me. I just want to be heard, man. Just let me get it out. Let me see what it and feel, So I think one of the best things is when you certainly number one is you can count on them. your friends you want to count on. So if I can count on you to be trustworthy, if I can count on you, like this is, oh, look, here comes Randy. There's interrupter, waiter. The waiter was great because they're really just waiting to pounce on you,
Correct. They're not really listening. They're just waiting for the break to then insert whatever it is they have on their brain to say.
So I know for a fact, if I called at 1 o'clock in the morning, if I called Byron Dennis at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was in Alaska and I said, dude, I'm in trouble, he'd be at the airport already. I wouldn't even hear the phone click. He'd be at the airport. That's what a true friend is. They'll go out of their way. They'll make themselves uncomfortable. So,
well, that's the other thing. I think when you talk about being uncomfortable is, they're supportive, but they have your best interest in mind, which means they're willing to say the hard thing to you, right? They're willing to tell you that, like, you're out of line here, dude. You know what I mean? Like, you're wrong.
The example was when you reached out prior to us working together, you reached out to Byron. You could have reached out to anybody, but you knew the relationship Byron and I had. You knew Byron would tell you the hard stuff. And he did. It's not pretty, but it's, that's really what I think you drive for, you look for all the time, looking for those people you can count on. I can count on those people, and they don't need to be your best friend. I think Warren Struhl, as a business partner of mine, I can count on, because one day he took me to dinner and he said, listen, dude, everybody knows you. Nobody knows what you do. That was a hard thing to tell me. I was like, what do you mean? Because people get defensive. What he told me? He goes, you got to fix your value proposition, how you're communicating value. I was like, dude, I want to hug you, man. Thank you. That was a inflection point in my career where I got crystal on what I really did. Was I just honed in on that. I'm a connector. He goes, you're the best at it. Just be the connector. Tell people that. So anyway, so you get that information from people who care about you.
So I think another important one, and I think we'll probably end on this one, is that they respect your boundaries, right? Like, regardless of the different seasons you go through in your life, like, if somebody's your friend or your best friend and you guys have lots of great times drinking together and hanging out and partying, but as soon as you decide to stop doing that, if they can't respect that boundary of yours, they're not your best friend.
Correct.
Right? Like, and that goes with anything. It's not just with drinking. It's how you're eating. It's how you're living your life. It's whatever you're doing. It's the books you're reading. It's the faith you're following, whatever it is. If people can't respect your boundaries, then they're not your best friend anyway. So it gets hard when you've built that foundation. You've thought, oh, we've done all these great things together. We've always been there. And then as soon as something changes, that then changes the way they perceive you. That's a good thing, because now you know that you didn't have a real best friend to begin with.
I'll close with this, which is a real story. When I left the phone business, prior to leaving, I had a lot of best friends. Everybody loved me because I could give them something. Airtime, phones, access, all the other stuff. The minute I left the phone business, everybody I thought was a friend ran for the fucking hills. I go on to somebody else that I can take from. So are you a giver or a taker? As a friend, if you call on me, I will be there. No doubt. No questions. Except if you ask me to move you.
Great conversation. Great week talking about relationships and friendships. Awesome stuff. Looking forward to tomorrow and finishing the week the right way. Let's get down to business.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this. So let's get down to business. Let's get down to business. Give you one more night.